Hello, friends. Thank you to Yog from the Heart. Today, I have a very, very special friend with me whom I actually met on Facebook, and there was an instant connection thanks to Dr. Wayne Dyer, who has been an inspiration in my life and also in my guest's life. And then I ordered his book, Synchronicity, and I really enjoyed the book. So I wanted to introduce all of you with his book and his concept. He is Dr. Ken Harris. Dr. Ken Harris is a chiropractor, educator, lecturer, workshop presenter, author, and a keynote speaker. He was a founder of Waldwick Wellness Center in New Jersey, and for 45 and more years, he has been practicing as a chiropractor in New Jersey area. So, Dr. Ken Harris, thank you. Thank you for coming to my show.
Well, I'm humbled and honored to be here with you in this way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What inspired me to send you a friend request was I think we are in one of those groups together, and I always saw your posts, and they were very nice, and a lot of them were talking about Dr. Wayne Dyer, whom I have really read his books and have admired him. And then something in me said, send him a friend request. So what I did. And we then had a chit chat. We talked on the phone. We had a great conversation. Then I came to know about your book. I got it. And what a wonderful book you have written. Beautiful. It gives me a very good glimpse of the journey you have lived. And I would like you to tell my audience what inspired you to write this book. What is Synchronicity all about?
Well, we're going to have to thank Dr. Wayne Dyer because we're both attracted to his work for connecting us.
Yes.
What inspired me to write the book was I kept having more and more synchronicities, which are really meaningful coincidences, but they're not random. They were very much evidence to me that I was being guided by a force higher and bigger than little old me. And I kept getting them in such rapid fashion uh, that I said, man, why is this happening to me? I mean, it's great. I'm out meeting all these famous people and this, that, and the other thing, but who cares? And then the voice says, hey, dummy, it's not about you. Write the book so people will be reminded of their own journeys and let them know without a doubt that they are being guided on their earth journey. And
Yes.
so that's why I wrote the book, to reawaken that memory in people. You're having these things all the time, and we give you a little roadmap, a little way of discerning what they are, categorizing them, asking the right questions, et cetera, et cetera. So most people reading my book, they call me back and they say, hey, since I read that book, I'm aware of all these things that have happened to me. And
Yes.
I'm so thankful to realize I'm not alone. I've been guided my whole life.
Yes. And I think also, like, I have experienced, like, we meet different people in our life, and some of them are, even though you meet them for a very small amount of time, the impact that they have can be huge. And sometimes you don't even get chance to say thank you to them, you know?
Yeah. They're
And
called pivotal people. When you meet a person that changes the trajectory or path you're on forever, those are the very, I call them pivotal. You pivot. And after having met those people, you're never the same. I've
yes.
had many of those, well, a half a dozen real strong pivotal people. And I feel blessed to have had that happen. And I was aware. I was, whoa, you get the aha moment.
Yes. Yes. So how did you meet Dr. Wayne Dyer?
It's interesting. I was at a seminar in Northern California, and he was the keynote speaker at this particular seminar. There were it was all chiropractic practitioners, and I had read all his books prior to meeting him, so I was attracted to his message. His message was what I was looking for. And after the seminar, I went up and I humbly asked him. I said, Dr. Dyer, would it be okay if you and I took a photo? He says, by all means, Ken. And I'll never forget he's very tall. He's about another foot bigger than me. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He put his arm around me. We took the photograph and he looks down at me like my big brother. He says, Ken, do you know that you and I have one heart? And I said, I'm feeling something. If that's what you mean, as we're sharing the same heart space, I know that now after hugging you. So that was my first encounter with Wayne. Fast forward 17 years later, I hadn't seen him, but I continued to follow him. I'm walking in Kanapali in Maui with my wife along the path, and he's about 75 to 100 feet ahead of me on the phone. He was always on the phone. And I saw him, and I didn't even know he was there. I was there to meet Ramdas, Baba Ramdas. I was going there for that intention. I didn't know Wayne even lived there. And I
Mhm.
yell out, Wayne! And he drops the phone. Good, because now he had to speak to me. If he kept staying on that phone, he might have walked right by me and we would have never encountered. Anyway, long story short, we had this great conversation. I reminded him of meeting him many years prior, and and we cordially said goodbye. About a half hour later, he comes running down the path looking for me, and he was so happy he found me. He says, "Oh, Ken, I'm so happy I found you because," and these are his words, "God told me you're going to help me." I said, "Well, what's going on, Wayne?" He said, "Well, I know you're a chiropractor." I said, "Yes, I am. And I'm having health challenges. And I believe you're the answer. Synchronistically, you were put in my path for that specific reason." And then I became his doctor for 2 years, on and off.
Wow.
We shared very deep, intimate times together. I mean, emails, and I also did energetic healing with him, a thing called attunement, and we were soul brothers without a doubt.
Yeah,
I really believe, if you believe in reincarnation, which I do, that he and I were connected in another lifetime.
I
It
do
was,
too. I
it was
do
an
too.
inner knowing. There was just this inner knowing.
It's inner knowing. Yes. I also met people where there is this inner knowing that you know them more than just this lifetime. And the soul connection that you feel with them is very, very strong.
Mhm.
So, what would you describe in terms of when you said you also felt that heart connection with him? Was there any like, can you describe that? I know some of these things are so difficult to describe.
Well, I just felt such a sense of calm, a sense of relaxation, a sense of expansion. I felt like when we hugged, like the field went out thousands of miles.
Yes.
It was an expansive feeling. And
I know.
you hit you used the right word. When you meet a soul tribe member, you don't recognize them by physicality. You
Yes.
recognize them by feeling.
Yes.
It's a certain sensing you get, an intuitive knowingness.
Yes, yes, I agree. It's that feeling, that yearning to got to know them better, to spend time, to be able to do whatever it takes to let that relationship continue,
Right.
right?
And there's a sense of familiarization.
Yes,
You don't have to get to know them. You almost like know them immediately,
yes,
which to me is evidence that, yes, you had prior connection. Everything is energy and information. It's encoded in our
yes,
DNA. So there's memory. And that
yes,
memory gets reawakened when you're in the presence of other fellow, I would say, God beings.
yes, yes, very true. And so you also talk about meeting Ram Das in your book. Tell me something about that experience. I've
Well,
only read his quotes, so I don't know much about him.
I was never a devotee of Ram Dass. I was never into, quote, guruism of any type. I kind of resisted it, actually. But I had this inner compulsion when I was in Hawaii and I heard he lived there to go and attend one of his seminars. It's called Opening Your Heart in Paradise. He does it twice a year. He did do it twice a year, and usually in the spring and in the fall, in the winter. And I just had this inner knowing I was supposed to meet him, but I didn't know why. There was no conscious awareness of why.
Mhm.
And so through a series of synchronicities, I talk about it in the book, the way opened for me. He sees very few people between seminars. They protected him, but it was divinely orchestrated and arranged that I had an audience with him. And I remember walking into the room with him and looking at him, and a sense of deep, deep calmness came about me. I became in almost an altered state of consciousness. Uh, and I just looked at him and he looked at me and he says, "How can I help you, Ken?" And then I realized why I went to see him. We had a mutual friend who was a kirtan wala. His name was Shamdas, and he was world renowned. He spoke 5 languages. He was an American, but he lived half the year in India and half the year in America, written many books, had many CDs, musical CDs. And he and I became really close. And unfortunately, he got killed in a motorcycle incident in northern India and expired. And I had grief around it. I was still carrying this grief. I didn't know it at the time. And so I asked him, I said, you and I share this friend, Shamdas, and Sham would go every year to visit Ramdas. So he really knew him. And I said, I'm feeling sad. I want to know how he's doing. And this is what Ramdas did. He looked at me, he smiled, he went like this. Sham with Krishna. He wants me to tell you he's fine. And I could feel the presence of Sham in the room.
Oh.
That's what really rocked me. We both did. It's like he showed up.
Yes.
And I went from sadness to joy.
Yes.
I mean, it changed my emotional state instantaneously.
Yes.
Here's a funny thing I'm going to share with the audience. This is so funny. I said to Ramdas, I don't know if you know this word, but I'm going to use a word to describe my relationship with Sham. Sham was half Jewish in an earthly sense. I'm half Jewish. I said he was my mishpucha. That's a Jewish term which means member of your family, member of your tribe. I'm explaining this to Ramdas, and he starts to laugh. And I'm saying, oh, why is he laughing? And he kept composes himself. Now, he had aphasia. He could speak, and then he couldn't speak. By the way, when he couldn't speak, we were telepathically communicating. When he composed himself, he says, Ken, I know what mishpucha means. I'm Jewish. He came from an he really wasn't, but he came from an earthly Jewish pattern. And he just belly laughed, the two of them. And I'm telling him what the word means.
Yes.
And his father owned a railroad. They were very wealthy. He came from a very upper middle, wealthy class background. And it was, as your audience may or may not know, was a professor at Harvard University. He was the one who got fired with Timothy Leary. A lot of young people don't know who Ramdas is.
Yes.
And because they introduced LSD to the student base. And the administration said, that's it, you're out of here.
Yes.
Leary went on to kill himself, and Ramdas went to India, and he found Neem Karoli Baba, who became his guru.
Yes.
So every time I would see him after that, I went several more times, we would laugh. I would just yell out mishpucha, and we both laugh.
How wonderful. How wonderful. Yes, I have read a little bit about Ramdas. I have watched his videos, and he seems very, very, truly beautiful human being.
Before he had his stroke, he was stroked for 20. He said, God stroked me to wake me up, he said. But before he actually had his stroke, he was one of the most articulate public speakers I ever had the pleasure of being in the audience with. If you really want to get a feel for him, go back, look on YouTube for his old lectures. He could keep an audience on the edge of their seat for hours, and it would feel like 5 minutes. He was that articulate. And he was genuine. He was sincere. He gave up all his worldly goods. He became a total servant. That's what it means, servant of God. Ramdas means servant of God. And he started charities. I mean, he was the real deal. Let me put it that way.
Yes, very true. I've watched a documentary on him, I think on Netflix, on Amazon. Wonderful documentary done on him and his life. It was beautiful.
And he had the most beautiful blue eyes like Wayne Dyer.
Yes.
By the way, I got blue eyes too. So they say all blue-eyed people are related. I don't know. We're all the same branch. We're all related, but we have a particular branch. Like all redheads are related, all blue-eyes, no matter what culture you come from.
Good. That's good to know.
People with blue eyes ever? You ever see an Indian with blue eyes?
I have, yeah.
So I would say he's my mishpucha too then.
Okay. If I see one, I'll direct them your way.
Yeah, tell him, hey, the blue-eyed guy over there.
Yes, yes. So tell me something, Ken. What does it take for a human being, to be aware of the synchronicities? I mean, what do you think in your life led to for you to be aware of them? I'm sure you were not born this way, or maybe you were, I don't know.
Well, I have an attitude. I think it's an attitude of openness of heart, and an attitude that everyone you meet is either a student or a teacher or both to you at some point. We're all students and teachers. We're all lessons or blessings, as they say, to one another. And so that's my attitude. I always say strangers are friends I haven't met yet.
Yes.
That's how I perceive you. And I don't judge your station in life, rich, poor, white, black, Jew. It don't matter to me. It's all
Doesn't.
God. It's all God in disguise. So if you want to have synchronicities, as Yogi Bhajan said, you want to see God, you got to see God in all.
Yes.
Everywhere you look, God is. And so I have this engaging personality. I'm not shy. That's the other thing you have to do. Be willing to engage people. You know,
Yes.
good morning, good day, how's your day going?
Yes.
Listen to what they tell you. Many
Yes.
times it'll be your next step in your journey, and sometimes what to do next, and maybe sometimes what not to do next.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the way I think you can increase the likelihood of having more so-called coincidences or synchronicities. And it's amazing. Synchronicity is ubiquitous. It's happening to everybody all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And most people do not connect the dots.
Yes.
You know, they're automatons. They're hypnotized to the unreal. They're on automatic. No,
Yes.
be in present time consciousness. Pay attention. I always say stay aware, awake, and alert. Those are the 3 A's.
Right.
Awareness, awakeness, and alertness. And you'll get the information you need. It's there.
Yes, very true. And now, having worked as a chiropractor, which is different. I have had some chiropractic treatments, and I really believe in the modality. What can you give our audience? Like, how does that align you to be that aware, alert, and
Okay, so chiropractic treatment or care is an attempt to remove interferences between the brain and the body. And so the adjustments are really an attempt to bring coherence between the head and the heart.
Mhm.
And when they're lined up, you're more aware and open to what's going on in your life.
Yes,
So the adjustments we found out, every time we adjust the spine, the brain lights up. They did PET scans and
yes,
makes these reconnections. And
yes,
when you're reconnected here, well, the universe is going to reconnect you here. If
yes,
you're vertically connected, you will be horizontally connected because
yes,
we are all connected in the
yes,
energy matrix.
yes. As within, so without, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
same principle. You know,
Yes.
what created the atom created I would say, as my friend Deepak Chopra would say, the cosmos. He's another
Very,
guy I met synchronistically. And the
yeah.
crazy thing is, I met both Wayne and Deepak on the same day, 17 years apart twice.
Oh,
That's
wow.
crazy. I mean, you can't
That's
make this stuff up.
crazy.
The,
Yeah,
the day
that's
I was with Wayne up in Northern California, I told the man who owned the company, I'm going to fly down and meet Deepak Chopra. And he says, do you have an appointment? I says, no. He says, he may not even be there. I says, I'm going to meet him. I had an inner knowing. I got on an airplane, said goodbye to Wayne, fly down to, it's so crazy, to La Jolla. That's where the Chopra Center was at the time. They moved subsequently to Carlsbad, and now they're not even there. But anyway, I check in the hotel, and I said to the girl, where's the Chopra Center, the concierge? She said, oh, go out the door, go up to the corner, make a right, and go down the hill. It's 2 blocks. Well, don't you know I did that? When I turned the corner, Chopra and I belly butted. Knocked him on his behind. And like we were startled. And I said, oh, Deepak, I've been looking for you. And so we engaged. I was there to invite him to be a keynote speaker at an organization that I was one of the field directors for, called the Whole Health Institute. And I showed him a picture of a place I wanted him to come to, called the Lake Mohonk Mountain House, which is a 300-room castle on an 8,000-acre preserve upstate New York. When he looked at that picture, his eyes vasodilated. He got right on the phone. He called his secretary and he said, make room tomorrow, 3 hours. I want to speak to Dr. Ken and put this note that we're going to go to the Mohonk Mountain House someday. And I went up and I had a meeting with him that was also heartfelt, familiar, inner knowingness. And I asked him permission at the time. I said, you know, Deepak, I read your 7 Spiritual Laws, your little booklet, which is
yeah, I have that too.
a wonderful book.
Beautiful book.
And I developed a seminar around it. I said, would it be okay if I went around the country and taught that? He said, you have my blessing.
Wow.
So I taught that for years in many chiropractic offices all across the
Wow. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you do practice yoga yourself too.
I do, but I'm not, I practice advanced yoga. You know what that is? Savasana. No, I do yoga, but I do my own little routine. I'm not a yogi.
Yes.
I was once studying.
Actually, Shavasana is the most difficult asana.
I know. I was with, do you know the Jivamukti people? The Jivamukti yoga people? It's
No.
Sharon Gannon and David Life. They
Okay.
started Jivamukti, which is a very popular form in New York. So I was in Costa Rica at a seminar with my friend Sham, and they were teaching. So I went. They are the Marines of yoga. I mean, they are, forget about it. I couldn't keep up. So I just lie down. And she came over to me and she says, "Can I help Sharon?" She says, "Ken, are you okay? Can I help you?" And I just said, "No, I'm doing advanced yoga." And she laughed and she says, you are doing it. People think it's all about the posture, but no, it's about presence.
Yes,
Anyway,
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, the form of yoga that I teach, I also don't focus so much on asanas, but I focus a lot more on breathing. To me, breathing is the bridge between the soul and the mind and the body.
absolutely. The first thing we do in incarnation on the planet is we breathe in. And
Yes,
the last thing we do when we leave Mother Earth, we breathe out.
yes,
People are all concerned with their nutrition and exercise. And I say, well, they're important. Don't get me wrong. This earth suit needs those. But
yes,
how long can you go without breath?
yes,
Minutes. You can go weeks without food, days without water, minutes without prana,
yes,
without life. Well, the breath is a spiritus. It's the spirit.
yes.
And
Yet,
they say God breathed the breath of life into man and became a living soul.
yes,
Whatever God means to you, but
yes.
I mean, breath is essential.
Yes, absolutely. You're so right, because, and look at it. I mean, we are so focused on what we eat, the supplements, the nutrition, and everything. We're so focused on the physical element of it, running, exercise, this and that. But nobody talks about the breath. I mean, really, the world is upside down to me. I mean, what is so important. And I have seen miraculous changes in people, when they start focusing on the breath and they start being aware of the breath. And why people, me, myself. I mean, the more I do pranayama, the more I feel what you're talking about, those synchronicities, that the connecting the dots. And your and my meeting is one of them. Like, who knew when we talked to each other a few months ago that we would be doing this? I was not even thinking of doing interviews at that time. But, there was something that divine connects you for a reason.
And it's all Wayne's fault.
Yeah.
It's Wayne Dye. He was the one who got us together. Because we both loved what he had to say. We were attracted to the teaching. So
Yeah.
we were already resonant. And I knew as soon as speaking to you that we'd be friends. I didn't know that we'd be doing this. But I knew.
So, just in a short, few words, if you could tell more about what do you think the audience will get out of the book when they read it? Like, what I get from you that, they will be inspired to be aware and look for these synchronicities in their life. And, and that will probably create a roller coaster effect of more and more coming in, right?
They will be more cognizant of the fact that they happened in their own life. And, it's like anything else. I sometimes would get a new patient and they say, "Doc, since I started coming to you for care, I now look and I see chiropractors everywhere. Before then, I never saw a chiropractor. Like my town is a small town. There are 10 chiropractors." The lady said, "I didn't even know there was one in this town until I started with you." So that's what happens. Once they have the aha moments and they start connecting, they're going to be looking for them.
Yes.
And consciousness works that way. What you look for is what you're going to get.
Yes.
And what your inner dialogue is, you're going to attract. So they'll
Yes.
be more on point and alert to be aware, and it'll remind them that everybody is in their life for a reason. So pay attention more.
Yes. Yes.
From the person who pumps the gas to the person who checks you out at the supermarket, pay attention. I've gotten some beautiful messages from the poor girls behind those plexiglass things. No one talks to them in the supermarket. I talk to them.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Everybody's got the mask on. They're running. They're in fear. No, I engage them. And,
Yes.
and sometimes, I try to lift their spirit because not
Yes.
too many people are nice to these people today.
Yes. Very true. Very true. And you are also an energy healer. Can you talk something about that?
Yeah, I was blessed to be trained not only in chiropractic modality, but also something called attunement. And I've been doing that for over 40 years. And I was taught that process by another chiropractor who was the main educator for this form of energetic healing. And it involves not the chakras, not that there's anything wrong with the chakras, but it involves the 7 endocrine glands. And there we can open and close the seals and have people have a greater experience of themselves. I can do it on hands-on, which I never actually touch the person, or I can do it long distance. I've done some incredible, I've had some incredible experiences. A kid called me from Australia and he wrote me a testimony. I was like flabbergasted. So it's not me doing it to you. It's you and I coming into a coherent field, sharing our worlds and opening the gate. And I just create space for people to have a greater experience of their own soul.
Okay.
I'm not directing the energy. I'm not forcing it. I'm not trying to treat a condition, but I am opening a portal for them to relax. And that's the number one thing they report back to me. They have this sense of calm come over them and peacefulness. And maybe for some of them, the first time, the experience that, hey, I'm not my thoughts. I'm observing my thoughts now. Hey, I'm not my body. I'm in a body, but I'm not the body. So they have this initial awakening that they're not their thoughts, they're not their feelings, they're not their body, they're the witnessing presence.
Yes.
You know, Ram Dass was very big on this. He always called it soul to soul. I'm a witnessing presence. I'm not a personality. I have a personality, but that's not who I am.
And I think the other thing that comes with that realization is that I am not attached to any identity, you know? Like for me, like I'm a dentist by profession, and then I did my master's, and then going into yoga, I mean, I had to let go of all those other identities. I'm like, oh, it's okay. They're not serving the purpose now. I want to go into something else. And so a lot of people get attached to that because they're so attached in the mind and in the body that they get attached to the identity they have, whether being mom, whether being a profession you are in, or whether being the religion you are to, you know? So
Right.
anything it can be. And I think that once you go deeper into yourself as a soul awareness, then you're free. You can pick and choose whatever you want to be. You don't have to be one way or the other.
Right. You identify with soul, not role.
Yeah.
I think
How
of it this
beautiful.
way. Here's what I think. I think of the metaphor, or the image of a wheel, a circle, many spokes, and all the spokes end up where? In the hub. The hub is the I am consciousness, of which many spiritual teachers talk about. They asked, and I'm not religious now, but they asked Jesus, who sent you here? He says, I am that I am.
Yes.
You know, I'm Buddha.
That's what Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, I am that I am.
And that's who we really is. So the spokes are our capacities of expression, but it's not who we are. And once you're in that awareness, you go out and meet people wherever you need to meet them.
Yes.
And that's freedom.
Yes, that's freedom. Very true.
The problem is, particularly with men, they identify strongly with the role. And so when they retire, many of them die because they no longer have an identity. They were the president, they were this, they were that, now they're nobody. Here's what I'm going to say. While you're in the body, you have a dual awareness. You have soul consciousness and you have ego still. The ego still lives with us in this flesh body. So here's what I tell people. You're not going to get rid of your ego. Okay, your ego, don't try to kill it. You need it in the earth plane.
Yes.
Put it in the passenger seat. Don't let it drive the car.
Yes.
Let the soul be in direction and ask the ego for navigation, but don't reverse the roles.
Yes.
That's when you get into trouble.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So you talked about, I like that you talked about the fact that how, especially men who were so much into somebody, and then they find they're nobody as they retire. What would you like to say to some of that audience?
Well, anyone who's going to retire, make sure you retire to something, not from something. Have something, have a mission or a passion for something that's going to outlast you. You know, find a charity, find some way of being of service.
Yes.
That's what I would say. If you just retire and you want to play golf every day, you're going to shrink, and then disappear. So the people who live the longest are people who are here. They know they're here to help other people. That's why we're here.
Yes.
We're not here to get
I I like that you said find a passion, but I think sometimes passion is also misunderstood. It's a passion which is only directed towards your own needs and wants, as opposed to passion which is what you said, of a compassion, of a common good, of being service. Can you talk a little bit about the two differences?
Well, personally, I couldn't live without having a mission of service. I would get depressed, I think.
Yes.
I mean, so each person will figure it out for him or herself. And one way you know you're in Dharma, I'll use the Sanskrit name Dharma, your mission in life, you become timeless. Whatever you're doing, it's like 5 minutes. It could be 10 hours and like, whoa, it's gone. So,
Yes.
so that's a good clue.
Yes.
Find something that you lose consciousness of time. You actually become an eternal being
Yes.
doing what you love. And the
Yes.
world needs more people to be happy and to be loving and to be compassionate and understanding. It's not about achievement anymore.
No, no. I think achievement is a very intellectual thing. Once you get to the intelligence level, then it's all about what you can give and what you can share, right?
And that's open ended. There's no ceiling on that. I
Yeah.
mean, with achievement, there's a certain levels you'll hit, but with giving, there's no limits on giving.
Yes. Yes. So do you plan to write any other book?
I do. My second book. Well, I have a. I hope they leave me here long enough to complete all the mission, but I don't know if you know, but in January I had a heart attack. In
Yes.
this January,
I
I
saw that on your
had
Facebook.
a
Yes.
cardiac infarct, and uh, only by divine grace that I'm still here. A lot of synchronicities had to line up. So I'm going to write a book about entitled Extra Innings, a reprieve from sudden death. And I'm going to ask other people to send me their stories because I'm not the only one who's had this happen to.
Yes.
You talk to people and you find out that they've had similar experiences. And the silver lining of that whole experience for me was any residue ego fear I had around death, because the only time you experience fear is when you're in ego consciousness, is gone. I was totally okay. I mean, so that's why I want to convey to people that death is an illusion. It's not the
Yes.
end of life. It's just a change in form. So I'm going to solicit stories from other people and put together extra innings reprieve from sudden death. There's a lot of people out there. The other thing I want to do with Synchronicity is I want to have sequels. On my website, I ask people, send me your stories. Synchronicity, how I met my spouse. Those stories are crazy. How people
Yes.
meet. They start at childhood, they leave, they go to college, they marry other people, they die, and they reconnect. There's crazy stories. So synchronicity is how I met my spouse. Synchronicity is how I found a new place to live.
Yes.
Synchronicity is how I got a new job. Some of those stories are just as fascinating.
Yes. I'll send you mine on
Yeah, well,
on synchronicity of how I met my spouse. We actually met online.
I hope you do. People always tell me they're going to send them, and half the time they forget. But if you got a good story, it'll go in volume 2 and 3.
Sure, I will share mine.
Good.
We'll be happy to share.
And that'll inspire other people.
Yes.
So I believe, like Carolyn May says, many people have soul contracts.
Yes.
You have a contract. You've agreed before you even came to meet certain people at certain points. And hopefully you wake up and you remember. The only disease that humanity is suffering from, spiritual amnesia. We forgot why we're here, who we are, and why we have come. So my mission right now for me is to wake up consciousness. That's why I'm going around talking. On my website, it says I'm here to reawaken the memory of oneness and come out of the illusion of separation.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
the big mission. And I can do that in many different ways. Write a book,
Yes.
tell a story, whatever. And it's not always what you say, it's what it's presence. When
It's
people know,
presence.
they can smell it. If you're the real deal, oh yeah, they'll know, because the yapper here, can lie.
Yes.
But they, children and dogs, they know if you're telling the truth.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I think it's so interesting you say that because, I also encounter a lot of people because I teach yoga. So people think it's a spiritual. Yes, it is spiritual, but doesn't mean you have to leave the house and go to Himalayas or do something like that. But at the same time, a lot of people will say, oh, but we are not spiritual. And I'm like, you know what? you are not spiritual is not even a concept. Everybody is spiritual because you have a spirit inside. It's like saying, I am not the body. I mean, yes, you're not the body, but it's like saying that, no, this is nothing. You know, it's like we are all spiritual. It's just that we are on different levels of it, you know,
Different
and some
levels of
are
awareness.
aware and some are not shy to talk about it, that yes, we are spiritual. And doesn't mean now you're going to put me on this pedestal and put me in these rules and regulations. I'm still going to live a normal life. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. We need to raise that awareness of, spirituality is who we are.
Well, you're absolutely right. The divine spark is in everyone. Everyone has that essence, you know, the God being essence. Some are just encrusted with a lot of damage and a lot of trauma in their lives. They're not awake. A lot of people in the Western world think yoga is a form of exercise.
Yes,
They have no
saddens me.
clue. Yeah,
Saddens
they
me.
have no clue that, you know, I would tell them, you know, the yogi masters in the Himalayas, they weren't suffering from stress. They didn't go up into the mountain to have stress. They went up to meet God.
Yes,
The union of heaven and earth. Yoga means the union of,
yes,
you know, of the invisible and visible, the immaterial and the material, the spirit and the form.
yes,
So the real purpose of yoga is to bring about reconnection,
yes.
not
The
about
union.
flexibility.
Yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's why we need to raise the awareness that yoga is not just about asanas and how big and strong and difficult postures you can do, but it's about combination of that with breathing, with the lifestyle, um, and then understanding that it's the heart and mind coherence, and also that this humbleness of a being that comes out of that whole transformation is where you start becoming aware of that you are not in control of your life. There is somebody else guiding you. And you become more and more in gratitude of that grace.
I couldn't say it better than that. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, with that note, thank you so much, Ken, for coming to my show. And I will let my audience know that this is the book, and please go on Amazon and get it. It's a small read but a wonderful, wonderful book, and you will, when you finish it, you will come out with I felt like so much peace, and also like a curiosity to look into my life and look into the dots that still needed to be connected. And it was a wonderful, wonderful read. Thank
And
you so much.
mission accomplished. Then, if that was your experience, I was successful with you. I would
Yes.
just say one thing, if I might. If they want to stay connected with me, my website is DocTor KenHarris.com. The
Yes.
full word doctor, KenHarris.com. And they will get, if they register for free, a 5-page printout of the 765 formula for synchronicity and a
Uh-huh.
monthly newsletter for free. So
Okay.
that way we can have an ongoing community.
Sure. Yeah. And I will put that in description. All your information I will put in there. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again.
Namaste.
Namaste.